what I do and what I don't like about my art. Do you even art if you don't absolutely agonize about the way your art looks? That you either can't figure out how to stay consistent, or you work yourself into such a rut you wonder how you're ever gonna dig yourself out of your style hole. Or you've worked so hard to cultivate said style, and then you go to school where they pretty much try to beat it out of you, and then you get out into the real world and realize it's the people with the super distinctive styles that are actually making money and stuff. So if you're new here, hey, I'm Paige, known as Power Girl. And if you're not new here, hello, welcome back. So I've come to the part in my own art journey where I can look at my work with, I feel like, a relatively neutral lens. But, give me 10 minutes and I will immediately backslide when I see, some godlike 12-year-old's art that they did with just their phone and their finger. Looking at my social media feed used to actually bring me, a lot of joy, a lot of inspiration, but I'm gonna continue to whine about social media on my channel if you haven't figured out already. And really, kind of at this point, it's starting to look more like my 13th reason than, my source of inspiration and all that. So yeah, spent a lot of 2024 last year doing a lot of work around my own insecurity, just in general, and of course, mainly my art and how that has affected my relationship with social media too. So I give you that whole little sob story to say, I get it. It's taken me a minute to get here to this more neutral space, and I want to explore new ways to create and experiment and have fun and maybe switch up my art style in the process. I don't want to do it because I hate it, because I kind of got to the point where I don't hate it. So, and haven't we all changed it 100 times because we've also hated it? So don't want to do that again. So let's kind of talk about, I want to go a little bit, let's be positive a little bit as well as, negative. So what do I like about my style currently, or, kind of how it's evolved, what I don't like, and how am I gonna change it up from here. So I think my best thing is that I really enjoy it from an ideas and concepts perspective. So I don't understand a lot about art block from lack of ideas. Definitely understand it from burnout. I have more ideas than I will ever know how to do or do anything with. I'm fortunate that I still like a lot of my work from my teenage years. I know that's, wow, some of y'all are like, strong statement, Paige. It's a lot of it's still really cringe. Totally agree with you there. And I remember even looking at these pieces now that I was so frustrated with my execution. But looking back at the art that I made then and the art that I've continued to make, I actually still really like a lot of it. So some of the examples I'm going to show you right now. So this one's called Minty. It's kind of self-explanatory. It has Minty in the middle of the art. This one actually inspired a redraw a few years ago. I even made it into a sparkle gif, good old MySpace sparkle gifs. It was pretty fun. Really enjoyed it. This next piece is called The Divine Twins. I think I ended up winning a little deviant art contest with this one, and I still really like how this one looked. It was basically, in remembering, the concept was basically a knockoff Zelda game, and I made it like a stained glass window. And I still really like how this piece turned out. I think it's really cool. This next piece is called Gold Digger. As again, she has Gold Digger on her little patch there. And this one, I don't know, I really enjoyed making this one. I thought it was really fun. Really enjoyed the retro vibes of it, and just really enjoyed the overall, it was like a little mini series that I did. It was like 3. And then this next one is called Ooh, which is also pretty self-explanatory. So my partner Mike did my logo, and in exchange, I drew him some illustrations for a typeset, a font that he had made. So yeah, the whole concept was like 1880s meets 1980s meets JoJo, and those were the pieces that kind of resulted from that. Still really liked how they turned out and would do it again. Not really ever been scared of color. So wasn't really until I got into college that I realized actually how super freaking complicated color is. Especially when you go from like digital to print to digital, you're mixing actual paints. It's a whole thing, and a whole new world opened up to me. You know, cue the Jasmine and the Aladdin there. And because I was like entirely self-taught up to that point, it was never something that I really planned for, really knew a whole lot about. I just kind of intuitively used it. Went real hard on the vibes and still run pretty hard into the vibes. And I think that's really been to my advantage. So this next piece I'm going to show you is called My Life, My Music. You know, you have to have those like titles for your DeviantArt pieces, and I suck at naming things, but I was trying to be cool. So yeah, it's giving baby's first digital color. I will 100% concede on that. I don't know, but just really enjoyed the process of making this piece. And again, talking about like, I'm going to talk about this in a minute, about graphic design being my passion and all that. That typography just shows up in a lot of my stuff. This next one's called Bubblegum Daydreams, and this one's also super hard giving baby's first digital color, but I like this piece a lot still, and it actually inspired a redraw that also inspired the Gold Digger piece. And then this next one is the One Punch Man commission that I did for somebody. It is a compliment to the Mob Psycho poster that I did. It was like a very 70s psychedelic band poster inspired thing, and I think those both turned out really cool, really interesting, and yeah, I don't think I've ever been scared of color. And the final thing that I think I really enjoy about my work is, you know, the whole graphic design is my passion. So yeah, that's what I got my degree in college. It's UX design's my day job now. So yeah, that's really helped me level up my art skills in ways that I, you know, probably never would have thought it would have done that. So I think some of the stuff that it really has helped me with is, of course, actually using typography correctly, even though I have been using words in my art for a long time. Understand composition better. I understand how to optimize my art for print and things like that. I understand how to analyze what's good about art, especially if it's art that I personally just don't like. And then how to effectively give and receive critiques, especially self-critique as well, like look at something from a little more objective eye. And then, you know, giving me that network of people to reach out to if I am absolutely stuck at something. So that's been really helpful. And I think it's also just really helped me not be so scared about like opening a program and seeing all the toolbars and the little tools. And yeah, so I'm not super terrified of those anymore. I feel pretty comfortable jumping into something and just kind of figuring it out. And then also it's given me some baseline skills that are pretty useful for stuff like this, like YouTube. So yeah, some of the pieces that I think really fit this well. My scattered thoughts, again, it's giving baby's first time opening like Microsoft Word and typing curls into it and stuff. Yeah, I know. You're not telling me something I don't already realize. But yeah, I just enjoyed drawing this piece. I can still remember that. And I still think it's just cool and interesting. This next one I did is a GameCube poster, obviously, GameCube. I tried to do this one to slip into a portfolio to try to get hired on at a cool agency where they did like more illustration work and stuff like that. It obviously didn't work out because I'm in UX now instead, but alas, it's okay. And I still really enjoyed this piece, and maybe at some point I would like to get this printed. This third one is the piece I did inspired by Bayonetta 3. We won't talk about Bayonetta 3, and this piece took me longer to make than it took me to play the whole game, but still got a cool piece of art out of it, so yay. And then this final piece is Doki Doki Battle Rumble. So I participated in like a thousands nostalgia zine. So my concept was like, what would I have enjoyed playing at that time? And it would have been like a really girly Smash Brothers, basically. So I designed the Doki Doki logo, and yeah, I designed it like what it would look like if it were like a GameCube case cover. So super fun project, probably one of the favorite things that I've done in quite a while. So what do I not like about my art? So I think one of my biggest things is I feel like my work is too flat and lacks depth. So back in the day, you know, your Wacom tablet was the poor man's Copic markers, right? So did a lot of my art in middle school and high school with either my Wacom tablet or Prismacolors / fine liners, because those were also still cheaper than Copic markers. So now that I'm able to afford, you know, nicer equipment like an actual iPad and buy like a bazillion brushes for it, I've never been able to figure out how people can get their styles to look just so delicious and gummy and chewy and wonderful. And I feel like my work just lacks that sense of texture and depth, and I think both in that actual physical sense and even the symbolic sense. So some of these pieces you're gonna see, you probably are completely not gonna agree with me about, and that's okay. This is, and you know, I'm going to show you stuff that I still really like, and it's still some of the favorite stuff that I made. So this first piece is called Heartbreaker, and I did that as kind of like an anti-Valentine's Day. And I don't know, she just it's just one of those, I think a lot of people probably feel this way. It's like, oh yeah, this line art looks so good. Like, oh yeah. And then just, I don't know, somewhere in the rendering phase, just the composition, I was definitely I'm like, I'm gonna make this into a sticker, and probably could have done some like cooler stuff with it. But anyway, this next one is one of my favorite pieces of fan art that I've actually done. It's the Armstrongs from Full Metal Alchemist. And yeah, it just kind of looking at it, I don't know, just the focal point, like you're just kind of not sure where your eye's supposed to go. Just feels a little too flat to me, you know. Makes me sad because again, I really enjoyed it because Olivier could wife me up so fucking fast. Anyway, and then this draw in your style that I did for Miss Gamer D on Instagram. I think it's turned out really cool, and I really like the process of it. But again, it's just one of those, like, I feel like the focal point's not clear, the composition's not super clear, and yeah, that's just really all I got to say about that. It just feels too flat, just spatially, everything else. Yeah, the next thing I think is probably one of my biggest problems, and probably is causing the first and the third problem, is I am really good about working myself into holes. So a lot of times I'm a lot more worried about pumping the piece out and either like putting it out on social media or putting it on a piece of merch. I used to have an art shop from like 2018 to 2020, decided to no longer do that during the vid. And so yeah, I think I was just a little too concerned about making stuff to turn into things than doing it in a more thoughtful way. I'm probably not great about actually exploring more than my first idea, you know, properly sketching, properly thumbnailing. There is something to be said about the whole, just fucking do it thing. But this is one of those things I don't think has really been to my advantage. That when I do kind of actually make series or series long enough for you to see the patterns, I feel like they all just end up looking a bit too different once you put them together. So this first one I'm going to show you, it is probably the most pieces I've completed for a single series, which is, I know some of you guys are like, I've done like 365 days of blah, blah, blah. Well, I can't do that. It's my Fight On Girl series, and this actually inspired the color palette for my logo. I just think I was a little bit too all over the place for this. Now, if you ever saw my first attempt at completing like Inktober, for example, you'd be like, this is so much more cohesive than any of that. But I don't know. I think I could have narrowed down my scope a little bit, or I don't know, just kind of looking at the whole body of work now. I'm like, it just all feels a little bit too different from one another. This next one is, I started a series for Persona 5, did 4, burned out pretty hard on it because I was trying to pump out like one of these pieces a week, and it was too much. And yeah, I think the compositions for these kind of suffered because I was too worried about doing my first idea, and also just like not planning the composition as well as I could have. There's just like things touching edges that I'm like looking at it like, I just don't like that. And yeah, that's just, I think it could have really benefited from a little more time and a little more thought. And even the Doki Doki Battle Rumble is one of those, like, I should have worked this composition a little bit more. Like some of the way the characters kind of fall into some of those panels and such, that just like worked myself into a hole, and then I just didn't try to finish it, or like not finish it, but actually work through it, kind of tweak and fix that a little bit more, because I was just a little too lazy at the time, and I want to be better about that. And I think the thing that those first two problems cause to me is I feel like my work has this tendency to look kind of generic. And I just think a bit unfinished. Like I said, I think the compositions could be stronger. Things could stand out a little bit more. My subject matter and choices, color choices and all that could probably be more unique. Like I said, I've been too concerned about getting it out, getting it done, putting it somewhere, and not doing potentially cool and unique things with it. So some of the pieces that I think kind of suffer from this like kind of generic feel is this Castlevania piece that I did. I think I drew all the characters separately and then tried to like put them together, and I think this is a piece I was trying to kind of do bust up to get the print done for a con that I was selling with one of my friends at, and which is like sad because I super loved the Castlevania series, and I wish I would have done these characters like a little more, I would have done them a little better, This next one is this Hex Girl piece that I did a few years ago. My idea was kind of like Visual K kind of inspired Hex Girls. Again, it's one of those, like, I kind of drew the characters separately, try to kind of amalgamate them together, and I think the composition just kind of falls flat. I think I could have just like explored and pushed a little more than I did. And I like the concept, and I think it's really cool. Maybe at some point I'll return to this, because the Hex Girls are like the Scooby-Doo movies are some of my favorite to watch during the Halloween season. And then this final one, again, one of my favorite pieces of fan art, probably one of my best-selling prints when I was selling them, is this Uncle Iroh piece that I did, kind of doing this Art Nouveau tea themed print. And looking at it now, I just like, this just needs feels a little generic, just needs some more zhuzh, So it's been something I've been thinking about redrawing as well, and I would like to do Uncle Iroh more justice because he super deserves it. You know what I'm saying? So where do we go from here? How do we switch some of these things up? I'm trying to approach this more like a fun experiment than a desperate attempt to stave off insecurity. So I think one of the big things I want to make sure I do is more visual research. So what other things I've been trying to do is really try to push myself to go to like the library more and actually find like physical materials. So looking through art books and old comics and children's books, kind of all these things. Yeah. I've also been looking at, saving things on Pinterest. So interesting poses, outfits, cool compositions. I would definitely like to find an alternative to Pinterest if anybody wants to throw some in the comments. I think because, of course, because of algorithms and all that, my stuff's starting to be kind of samey. Maybe I just need to look on some different sources, might look on like Unsplash, for example, because they have just like really high quality kind of stock photography, and it's, like royalty free kind of dealio. So might start looking into that as well. So one of the next things I want to make sure after I do just more visual research is to actually bother to thumbnail. That wasn't really on my radar when I was like learning stuff online, and it finally was exposed to it once I got to college. It's just like the little thumbnail sized little quick capture sketch thing, right? It's really great for just kind of really, like I said, quickly capturing ideas. And it's also a great way to explore lots of ideas like really quickly. And since they're just like these little shitty thumb size sketches, right? Like they're not super precious. So you're just kind of like iterating. And so I think that is going to help me figure out the piece before I actually like start trying to do it on the paper. So I can fix some of the problems that I said that I don't like about my art. Because now I'm taking that time up front to really plan that out. So by the time I get to putting it on actual like nice paper and all that it will be much better, and I don't have, like all the 30,000 erase lines because this curve won't turn out a certain way. You know how it is. So yeah, I think the next thing I'm gonna do is work in a variety of media. So right now, I think I have a bazillion, quite a multitude of art supplies, because I'm not really a person. I'm actually just like a bag of crows in a meat suit, and I collect and hoard things like they're all my little shinies. And so, yeah, I'm gonna kind of use stuff that I haven't used in a while. So stuff like watercolor and ink, and stuff that I'm, more comfortable with, like Prismacolors and fine liners. Still determining if I really actually want to. I have some acrylics. I may use some gouache. Gouache is pretty similar to watercolor, but you can kind of use it like acrylic. But not sure if I want to do acrylic paint. I do have some paint pens, because every time I paint, I actually remember how much I dislike painting. Since I was the artistic kid, guess who got voluntold to do all the painting and stuff at homecoming? So yeah, got a little PTSD from all those times. So the jury's out on that one still. So I think the next thing I also just really think is going to be best for me in this process is embracing imperfection. So definitely want to concentrate on physical media so I can get that texture and the tactile-ness back, and just like getting off that damn phone, you know what I'm saying? And yeah, there's no undo on real paper, which sucks. There are times when, of course, you're trying to draw a line or ink a line and it gets wonky or weird, and you're trying to put colors together and they don't blend and jive the way you thought they were going to. But that is going to be the time to, trust the process and get creative, right? That's like literally the whole point, is figuring it out in the process. Like, that's art. And it leaves my just indelible human mark on the piece, right? Especially if it's a physical piece. And if it's an imperfect piece, then nobody's ever going to be able to accuse AI of doing that, like I have seen some artists be accused of on the internet. So, and I just think this physical media is just getting more and more important in our day and age. That's a whole thing for a whole nother day. So how is this actually important or relevant to you? I think this is more of an expression of solidarity than anything else. I get it. Comparison is the thief of joy and all that. I can't control what the market demands or what new tech may make me obsolete, but I can control what I do. I can control what my own art looks like and what my practice is like. And I'm just choosing to not be so damn serious about it right now. I'm gonna do stuff because it's fun and interesting, and it tickles my fancy. So if you're hating your work right now, I hope this inspires you to maybe look at your work with a little more kindness. Or if you're feeling stuck, that it maybe gives you some ideas of how to do things in a new way and switch it up. And I think it's just an important reminder of all of us that, like, the point of art is to express ourselves and have fun while doing it. And anything else after that is just icing on the cake. So, with that being said, I'll see you guys again soon. Have a good one. Bye.